Patrick. It's great having you in the office today. For our viewers, Patrick don't know that Patrick lives on the West Coast. We're here on the East Coast. Patrick has come into town semi-regularly, and now he's here for our big CDN holiday party. Patrick, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here. Always. It's always fun to come back to Virginia and be at CDN HQ.
Yeah, and we always try to pack extra things in when Patrick's here, like the holiday party. And of course, today we have a really great interview to follow in the sequence of interviews we've been doing lately. And so that's pretty exciting. So it's great to have Patrick here so we can, tag team on Ian Russell today, who's the president and owner of GreatCollections. A lot of people in the industry know Ian. He's really, been an up-and-comer in this industry. GreatCollections was founded by Ian and his wife in 2010. Raylene Endo is his wife's name, and she's the behind-the-scenes brilliant person as far as I can tell. No offense to Ian. But Ian actually originally worked for a company called Teletrade back in 2001 to 2010, and I knew him back then. Teletrade was a really groundbreaking company that was internet before there was this real internet thing. Like you would call in and they had auctions and they would print out pages and pages and Coin World and other publications.
Oh yeah, it was tremendous.
Yeah, and but you called in your bids, which is of course why they called it Teletrade. Right. And so Ian was at the forefront of that. He really helped them explode. And then what he did was he left there and went over to Stack's Bowers. Right. Became, I believe, the president of Stack's Bowers, or what do we call it? I looked on his thing on LinkedIn or something like that, and maybe he was COO. And he took Stack's Bowers to a new level. And Ian was always someone I did business with when I was a coin dealer, and he was a great guy to work with. And I got to say, for a guy who's done a lot of great things, that he's really modest about all of it. And that's one of the things that I enjoy. I mean, I love his accent as well, but I've always enjoyed his kind of dry wit, which I think we'll see today in the interview. And he'll be a fun guy to talk to. And
they've had a tremendous year. So it's going to be interesting to hear his view of it and, how he got to that point.
Yeah, they have been on a roll, and they're definitely on the radar of companies that in the past had dismissed them as really not a big competitor. And so, Ian has also sold some incredible 7- and 8-figure coins to, he privately places them with clients, and we've done press releases for them. But most famously, to my mind, is the 1933 St. Gaudens, which, if I could ever own a coin, it would probably be that one. That's just a really, really cool coin with a really cool story. If you enjoy this interview and all the other interviews we've been doing, and we're going to continue with these interviews, we really hope you'll subscribe to our Gray Sheet YouTube channel. And, we don't want you to miss any of them, and keep supporting us. Go to graysheet.com, and we hope you'll subscribe. We're all about data and process, and pricing in this business, and nobody else is really as devoted to our cause in the same way. We're completely unbiased in how we do our pricing, and we try to approach the industry, and we really separate the wheat from the chaff in terms of a lot of the BS that is a lot of the smoke and mirrors that are sent in this business. Patrick and I will cut through all that for you. And, what you're going to see in our interviews is straight talk about these matters.
Exactly. Like transparency is, very big. And I think we've addressed many times over the years our pricing philosophy and, how we do things. And I think it's transparent, and that's why it's trusted.
Right. Please do subscribe to this channel, and we look forward to seeing you in future interviews. And at this point, we'll introduce Ian Russell, who is our next guest. And Ian, it's great to have you here today.
Hey, no, thanks for having me. But next time, I'm going to be better prepared. I'm going to have posters like you have there. I think that's great.
Absolutely. We can send you some if you need it.
Yeah, some gray sheet. I'll do gray sheet ones.
Well, when we do the cover story about having all your pricing data on our site.
Hey, it would be big news. I'm not even sure the front page could handle it.
I'm not sure. It would probably break the internet.
Yep.
It might.
All right, Ian, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Hi, Patrick.
GreatCollections has had a tremendous year in 2022 and also even 2021. We've seen many press releases from you about monster coins that you've been placing with your clients, some very significant transactions that you've put together, especially the package deal that I like to call it, of the 3 really important coins that you did earlier this year. And of course, a little bit later, we're going to talk about a very significant collection that you're selling at the moment. But before we jump into that, I think John and I and our viewers would really love to hear a little bit about the Great Collections backstory.
Yeah, so my wife, Raylene, and I, we launched this 11 or 12 years ago now. And it's obviously grown very quickly from, I remember the first auctions, it was just Raylene and I doing every aspect from entering the coins to imaging to shipping. And I think we handled it for about the first 3 months before we realized we couldn't handle it, just the two of us, and we started hiring more people. And it's just progressively grown over the last 11, 12 years. We both come from this industry. Raylene worked for PCGS back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then moved to Bowers and Morena. And my background, I was with Teletrade from 2000, 2001 through 2010, and also Bowers and Morena for the last 5 years of that. But in around 2010, we really wanted to start something from scratch that we felt could really, I don't know, that we thought that the industry needed. And from my standpoint, starting something from scratch was going to be easier than trying to change something that was already out there. And so that's what we did. And yeah, no regrets. It's grown a lot and having a lot of fun.
Even before Teletrade, were you yourself a collector or numismatist? How did you even?
Yeah, I've been a collector since I was 12 or 13, and I started working at a stamp shop in Sydney. I'm Australian. In 19.
I thought I heard an accent, by the way.
I think you have the accent, John. Yeah, so I started in a stamp shop, and then I started maybe 2 years later. I was very lucky to get a job at a stamp auction house in Sydney, and it was one of the biggest in Australia. But they also did coins and they also did paper money. And in fact, paper money I tried to really grow there. In the first year I was there, and we had a very big paper money auction, Australian and New Zealand notes. And then when I moved to the US, I really just changed completely over to coins. But I still have an interest in all collectibles. Yeah, I collect Australian coins, Australian paper money. I want to start a US collection, but I don't want to compete with my clients. So I think by collecting Australian notes and Australian coins, it's not competing.
That's very interesting. I'm myself a collector of old paper money. And I remember when I was just getting started, I used to look with so much awe in those old Spink catalogs of the Australian private bank specimens.
Yes, yeah. And so the problem with Australian notes, and as I'm finding, is you have to have a very narrow field, because if you want to start collecting all the pre-Federation notes and all the proofs that came out, and it's almost overwhelming. A few people have tried to do it, but it becomes very expensive and just way too big a field to collect. So I'm trying to I've narrowed down my collecting interest.
Interesting, man. I could talk about this forever, but I'll just say real quick, it took me like 3 years to get those Bort Ronald books back in the day.
Oh yeah, which is the main. They're still referenced today, yeah. Australia's done a fairly good job of cataloging and realizing all the different types. Some countries haven't done a great job at that, but Australia has, and the market's changed a lot. I mean, it's changed up and down over the last 20 years. I mean, they had some different rules for a lot of pension plans and things were investing in paper money and coins, and of course, that's good and bad. It was some people took advantage of the situation down there, and it caused the market to go up and down. And but I enjoy it. I mean, I'm having the time of my life with that, actually. And in the last few years, there's been a couple of major collections of Australian notes that have come on the market, and one was sold in Sydney and one was sold in the US, and it's fortunate. It's probably 2 of the top 4 collections ever sold were sold in a 12-month period, which is unusual. I mean, and that's kind of when I was starting to get back into collecting Australian notes. And so I was thinking, oh, wow, if this is going to happen every 6 months, I'm going to be broke. But nothing's really come on the market since those two auctions. So,
Cool. Well, back to Great Collections. What would you say, like right now, is one of the keys to the success of the operation?
there's several things. We're faster in auctions than what the industry is used to. We're able to list coins in very fast pace. I mean, most coins list within a few weeks, some list within a few days. In fact, I received a collection on Tuesday that's going to list in auction today. So it's been 3 days and it's 150 coin collection. And so we're very fast. Our fee structure is very, very low. We have a 10% buyer's fee, which collectors love, bidders love in general. I think collectors and dealers much prefer to pay a 10% buyer's fee than a much higher buyer's fee. It's probably logical, that probably human nature. And then we have a few other competitive advantages. Our images, we try to take images of how the coins really look in hand. So bidders can rely upon those images as not being enhanced or glamour shots, or we want all of our bidders to have the confidence to be able to bid strong on coins because they know how the coin's going to look. We spent a lot of time developing our imaging, and we're still working on it. Nothing's ever perfect, but in the early days, I remember before we launched, we spent months on developing the imaging and how the lighting is, and because we don't enhance any images, so we have to get the perfect shot the first time. Those are probably our three main competitive advantages. I like to think we do an excellent job marketing as well. And knowing which coins should be marketed, which coins should not be marketed, and how they should be marketed. That's one of the things I spend a lot of time on, and I enjoy, aside from looking at all the coins. And I think we're good at that.
Yeah, I mean, to my mind, your emails and like you're saying, the marketing materials are somewhat unique. I think you probably hold the crown for having the longest subject lines of anybody in the industry, or maybe any industry, where I think you list everything out, but you also list, you'll have hundreds of pictures of coins in the emails and things like that. And obviously it must work for you. It's an interesting strategy. So that's, fascinating. And I had one question I was going to ask that we had talked about ahead of time, was just that, do you have any major plans that, in terms of your company, do you like the steady kind of stable growth pattern that you've been on, or do you have any ideas for something bigger and better, or, in your future?
Yeah, I mean, stable growth. I mean, our business has grown a lot in the last few years. So I'm not, if it continues to grow at this pace, obviously we're very happy regardless. We love what we do, and we've been lucky that it's grown so much. But we do have other plans. When we plan to get into other collectibles in the next 6 months, 12 months, other certified collectibles.
What collectibles do you like?
Sports cards is the obvious one. We have a few other ideas that we're working on too. We're working on a few technology items too. That's a little too early to talk about, but we're excited. Hopefully, in the next, certainly next year in 2020.
What about international? When you started talking about Australia, I was thinking, one of the things since we took over the banknote book that we noticed there's a seemingly one of the strongest collector constituencies that we hear from is in Australia. And will you use some of that connection that you have to your homeland, for example, to grow internationally, or do you just are you generally focused on the United States market?
So we sell to Australian clients and worldwide every week. I personally like having one location from a logistics standpoint, and consistency with customer service and so forth. So yes, I do. I mean, I have a lot of contacts, obviously, in Australia from when I worked in the industry there. It's still the same people. There's some new people now, but younger people. But a lot of the guys from the dealers from the 90s are still there. Some of the collectors too. As for having offices overseas and things, I mean, it's always on the table. but I do like having one location. But our international side of business is growing each year. Every year we have more clients and more shipments going overseas. We're receiving more consignments from overseas. I don't think I've ever really discussed that element with anyone, but even in our first year of business, we had one of the largest consignments we ever received from Europe, a collector in Europe, and it was not something that we had planned. I mean, I had lots of different ideas when I started Great Collections and projections and things like that. Receiving seven-figure consignments from overseas was not even a possibility, or I never gave it a thought. But we do a lot of business with overseas.
Right. I actually recall you telling me something about that story, believe it or not. Something about an elevator in Austria or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great deal, and it was great. I actually ended up flying over there twice and had it was a raw deal. I mean, I have photos. I'm not sure we ever publicize them, but I have photos of a cement collection of dollars, 2.5s and 5s in a Capital Plastics holder.
Right.
And you just don't see collections like that. We graded it all from scratch, and of course, very mixed grades. Some were amazing, some were average, but to see a complete cement collection in a Capital Plastics holder is just
Sure.
it was pretty cool. I didn't actually want to get them graded for a little while because I was showing people them in the holder. It was too cool to take out of the Capital Plastics holder.
Right. That's a good point. So Ian, before we had this interview, you and I spoke a couple times about the things we would discuss, and one of the tangents that you and I had gone on was a philosophy that you shared with me, and I thought that was something we should bring up again in the podcast here, which is that you have a specific philosophy about kind of earning your customers' business every day. And I told you that I'd spoken with other dealers that shocked me, that kind of felt like, hey, I sold you a coin. You're obligated, really. There's a kind of a moral obligation to selling me that coin back, or that collection. And those dealers can, have told me about, they would get upset. My father was one of them. My father could get very upset. He'd help somebody build a Barber collection, and then, a year later, that collection shows up at a heritage auction, and he could take it very personally. And I learned, watching my father angst about that, not to take that personally. And you had your own take, so I just wanted to share that with the group.
Yeah, I think what we were talking about, I don't take anything for granted. If we're selling coins either privately or in auction, of course we would love to auction them again or sell them again for the clients. But there's no guarantee on that. We have to continue to look after our clients and to earn that business in the future. They're not obligated to sell them back to wherever they bought them from. And so we strive for that. Of course, it upsets us if we see something that's being sold elsewhere, but we just look at it that, what did we do wrong? What could we have done better that they would have considered to sell back through us? And I think we do a very good job of that. It's not 100%, but I think that most of our clients do sell back through us, either through our auctions or privately. But we don't take anything for granted. The moment that you take it for granted that clients are going to sell back through you, I think you lose it. I think you won't end up getting any of them. And
right, I agree. So, I think that's a powerful thing to not only say, but really to believe, is that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe it. And as I say, as we're not 100%, I'd love to say we get every deal back. We do get most, but we're constantly, even when we're at an extremely high percentage, we still can do better, and we have to remember it, because we've placed amazing coins over the last few years, privately as Patrick mentioned, yeah, there's been a lot of press releases out, but there's also a lot of other coins that we didn't put any press releases out about that. Of course, we would love the opportunity to handle again, and so that's one thing that, yeah, one of our focuses behind the scenes from a company standpoint is that very, very subject.
Right. I mean, that's good. I mean, I think that's a brilliant on your part. And just a good philosophy. And I think it cuts not just with clients, but with employees or any of your business relationships that, you have to earn it every day in this world. I think that's
and take nothing for granted. You're right. It's not just a matter of just the coins coming back. It is everything. And
right. Well,
yeah,
good for you, and not surprising you've been successful with that philosophy. So let's move on. We could talk a lot about different subjects, but let's move to the subject that inspired us to have a conversation, which is that you are auctioning a collection from a gentleman named Stuart Blay, who,
yes.
Rest in peace, just passed away a couple weeks ago. And to those of us in the industry, I knew Stuart Blay off and on for decades. He was a certain character at the shows, to be sure. He would pop in at the major shows like fun shows in Long Beach and A&As and things like that. And he was extremely knowledgeable. I would say my perception is that he was, one of the most savvy collectors in the market, and that didn't make him easy to do business with, to be fair. He was knew more than I did about his red copper, and that's the truth. I consider myself good at trading and understanding levels and things like that, but Stuart was a student of the coins themselves, and you'll expound on that, which is what I would love to hear more. But in my notes I say he was in the era of the certification 80s and 90s. He was certainly the old school original serious collector who knew more than the typical dealer of his field, and probably cherry picked us all to get the best coins. But I always found it almost impossible to sell him a coin.
He already had a better one, more than likely, and he really became the expert. There are definitely experts on Lincoln cents and other copper coins, but I really do believe that Stuart knew more than all of them, and he did this for 50 years, putting together the ultimate collection. Lincoln cents, he collected several different things, but Lincoln cents was his real focus and his real love. And he was very aggressive he would go to every coin show looking for the possibility of one coin that was better in his set. And many shows he would come back empty-handed. He really put together an amazing collection, and we're absolutely honored to be auctioning it. It's not the most valuable consignment we've ever received, but from a numismatic standpoint, I think it's the absolute most important, just because of the quality and I guess I take into account the time as well that he put into it. These are coins that most of them haven't been on the market, never appeared on the market. He either graded them from scratch and purchased them in the 80s and 90s raw, uncertified, or if he bought it certified, he bought it privately and it's never appeared on the market. And the coins are in a league of their own. When you view the collection, there are coins that are pop ones already. They're the single finest, and they look undergraded.
Right.
You can debate the point whether to regrade a coin. If it's already a pop one, do you really need to regrade it to get an even higher grade? But which Stuart didn't like doing that. There's many green holders. Even the most significant coins in his collection are still in the old green holders from when he graded them in the 90s. And it's just phenomenal quality.
So he was not really a registry junkie, although I bet he was a part of the registry sets. But so to my mind, the registry passions that people have, that just kind of takes away some of the love of the and the real understanding of numismatics, because you're just trying to have the highest numerical grades for the sake. Even if a coin is inferior, you'll chase a coin because it has a plus on it or something, and that's not something that I am in favor of. I've always, personally, and that would be somewhere though that Stuart and I would be in common from what you and I have discussed.
Yeah, Stuart. There are some coins in his collection that are not the single finest graded. There are many that are single finest, but there are some that are not. However, he considered his coin superior, and rightly so. Some of these coins are already attracting so much interest because of that. Stuart Stuart, I think like to think he knew more than the grading services with grading Lincoln Cents.
Oh, I know he did. I know he thought that.
I actually think he did. So
Well, he,
I,
well, he would have the benefit of continuity and self-knowledge, and the grading services have a revolving group of graders, and so he would have a better institutional knowledge. One of the things I just thought of, though, is this actually is a story that didn't occur to me until just now, that includes you and I and then Stuart, which is that if you recall, when you were at Bowers, I bought that 1901 S quarter in an MS-68 holder. Do you recall that?
yeah, I do remember
And
that. Yeah.
I remember you kind of lot viewing it to me, I think in Baltimore, and then we bought the coin, and then PCGS introduces the plus grading system months later. They had a big announcement. So they asked some dealers like us, they said, send in high-end coins for this new announcement. We would certainly like trophy coins. And I said, well, this O1S quarter is, for someone who's handled a majority of the gem O1S quarters, this was by far the most magnificent example I'd ever seen. It was holographic in luster and beautiful. And so it got a 68 plus grade, which at the time
it was the poster. It's what PCGS used as their marketing for it, right?
Right. They used it for marketing, and which is so ironic for a lot of reasons. But anyway, I then had the coin for sale at the time of the beginning of this thing. And Stuart went on the chat room, I think at PCGS, and proceeded to tell the world that his ONS quarter in 68, not plus, or even 67, I can't remember, was better than mine. And, and this was like, do we really need to have this competition? But he felt the need to tell.
While you're trying to sell your coin, you have Stuart there.
He was like happy to tell everybody his coin was better. And and these were the kinds of, but he was passionate, and that's what he cared about. And he was also passionate about Barber dimes. So we didn't talk at all yet about your auction. I think we should mention that very quickly. We've talked about Stuart. You've talked about this beautiful Lincoln set. What is it that you're selling right now, and when is it closed? Because I think it relates.
Yeah. So the main Lincoln Lincoln Cent collection is being sold in our January 15th, January 22nd, and January 29th auctions. And it includes all the mint state coins from 1909 to 1958. There's a double die collection, which includes the 1958 double die, which is only three. It's the finest of three known, as well as the significantly nicest 1969S, which is the finest, I think, by 1.5 points at PCGS. Amazing 55 double die, which I think it's tied with one other at PCGS, but this is the far superior coin. There's no comparison.
What's the grade on that?
It's a 65 plus red CAC. Every coin from 1909 to 1933 is CAC approved, as well as all the major double dies. Most of the later date coins are CAC approved as well, but I think Stuart's real love was a 1909 to 1933, as well as obviously the double dies. There's even an aluminum cent, 1974 aluminum cent struck. It's a proof struck on a Nepal planchet, and which
why
is
wouldn't it be?
Why wouldn't it?
I guess we were striking Nepalese coins in that era. Was that why? I mean, the United States Mint was striking.
Yeah, I mean the
Nepal?
mint. A lot of people don't realize the U.S. Mint struck coins for a lot of different mints around the world, a lot of different countries, and it ended up. I mean, this being a proof was a little unusual, and it's the reason why it's legal to own as opposed to the mint state ones from 1974.
Right.
What I find fascinating about the coin when you see it is how striking it looks, being aluminum. It's very different than steel, right? It's reflective, and not just the proof aspect, but how the metal glows. And I think about if they really did switch to 1974 to aluminum, what it would have done to the coins in the US.
Right. What is your estimate on that coin? That, I mean, I don't.
It's so difficult. I mean, I think the bidding shot up to $10,000 really quickly when there's still 45 days to go. Really difficult to estimate. I mean, I think it's a significant coin. I think it's not just that it's struck on a foreign planchet. It's the aluminum aspect from 1974 that I think adds so much value to it. And I think it's very special. I mean, some of the coins in Stuart's collection, I mean, the 58 double die is already up to $270,000, $280,000, and there's 45 days to go, which is it's pretty amazing how these coins. The 1909S VDB is up to, I think, 125 to 130,000 with so long to go, and we're expecting obviously a lot of bidding at the end, but it's collectors are already responding so well to it. And Stuart was always very generous with his time at shows with other collectors, and so many collectors would ask Stuart questions about coins. And Stuart, obviously he loved copper and loved pennies, but he knew a lot about other areas of numismatics. I mean, we've handled gold coins for him that you just wouldn't expect Stuart to be involved in, that he's had in his collection for decades. And we've handled quite a few coins of Stuart's over the years, and it's quite amazing that it's not just pennies and dimes and quarters that he's been very well known for.
Sure. No, he had an incredible eye, and and I will add as a shameless plug for Great Collections in this particular case, that I handled quite a few. I would say when I was at David Lawrence Rare Coins, that Lincoln Cents was one of our so-called profit centers, if you would. I mean, we could live on Barbers a little bit, but Lincolns were incredibly popular, underappreciated at the time, and we sold many, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of certified Lincolns. And one of the other dealers who was passionate about them at the time was Jack Lee, who was a wholesaler. Everybody knows him as a dollar maven, but he was really passionate about red Lincolns, and so he was like a funnel to me in those days. And the quality of those coins, though, doesn't compare. And I mean, it's impossible to find beautiful red Lincolns. And I can say with all expertise in this matter that these coins are basically one of a kind. I mean, with Stuart picked something out, and if you're able to buy a coin like that, and who knows how strong the bidding's going to go, I'm sure it's going to be very lofty, that these are special items. So
it's once in a generation, right? I mean, there's not many collections sold these days that have a whole series intact like this, the finest that's ever formed. It's not like there was a collection in the 50s, 60s, or 70s that was put together of Lincoln Cents of this quality. This is the finest ever. And it really, I think collectors are going to take into account that this is a once in a generation opportunity.
So, people didn't appreciate them even then. I mean, other dealers didn't. I mean, it was great. I mean, we had basically the run of that market for a time period because other dealers really just didn't respect them. Of course, there are several that do, Andy Stravelak being one of them, and so on. But generally, the market was not in fervor over Lincolns, which is another reason I liked them, because I could go to the shows and didn't have a lot of competition.
But that's changed so much. That's over the last 10 years that the Lincoln Cent market has expanded considerably, and there's a lot more collectors that want the finest. And we have a lot of statistics internally of new collectors and what they're collecting, and Lincoln Cents is right up there with Morgan dollars and silver eagles.
Right, and rightly so. Honestly, rightly so, because everybody sees them. Of course, they're who needs pennies anymore and change, but this is why people love them, and we bond with Lincoln Cents. They've been in, even our grandparents use Lincoln Cents at this point. So
and many collectors have the story that that's the first coin they're trying to find, whether it be a 55 double die or a 69S double die. It's amazing that that's the one that, and of course, how famous a 43 copper penny is. It's the one that's always being discussed, and
hands down,
the one series.
Everybody, if you go to a cocktail party as a coin dealer and someone says, "Oh, you're a coin dealer," blah blah blah. I have a 1909S VDB, right?
Exactly.
Right. Everybody has a 9S VDB or the 55 double die, but it's just part. I don't hear about Morgan dollars in that kind of conversation.
Not to the same degree, right? Yeah, not to the same degree.
Right, and of course the 43 pennies in copper, whenever they sell, every coin dealer gets sell for six figures, and then every coin dealer in the country has people calling saying they have one in their drawer. But that is a great point. And the only other thing I wanted to bring up that I thought of in this conversation is that how amazing it is that a 55 double die finest known is just a 65 plus. That's an aside.
Absolutely.
Because
Yep.
coins from 1955 should be available in 67 red, maybe a 68 red.
Yep.
But to think that a 55 double die only exists in 65 is an incredible thought, in my opinion. And I can only say that's probably because they were struck in a bad alloy. Maybe the batch that ended up double die or didn't do well, they oxidized and they didn't, they browned or something like that. But it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, the die had issues, right? In theory, that
I guess. I mean, it's just. I mean, the die itself, wasn't a rusted die or something. It's just somehow, they doubled up, the die itself. But I don't know. I don't know that anything really explains why they're not available on high grade. But it's
yeah. I mean, 1972 double dies they're available in 7+, and
sure.
But 69S is kind of the same, right? 69S, even though Stuart's is a 66, and we think's conservatively graded. Both the 55 and 69S, we both coins I consider conservatively graded. But yeah, the 69S, this was a 66 red, and aside from this one, I think it drops down to a 64+, and there's only a handful. Then there's a few 62s.
Much rare item. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of 55 double dies. I should mention that. I mean, it's from thousands of coins, but the 69S, how many are known? Maybe a couple dozen. I mean, a much smaller pool of coins.
Right, you're absolutely right. But still, nothing has turned up. Yeah, so you're right. With 55 double dies, it is surprising.
Well, good. I mean, I thank you for explaining what's so special about what this is called the Red Copper Collection by Stuart Blay. And
I don't think I answered one question. You asked me that whether Stuart cared about the registries.
Right.
So he did have. I mean, his Red Copper collection is the #1 set, I think, for 20 years for his core set, including double dies, I think. So he did have them all registered on there, but he just knew, and I did answer it partially when I said that he didn't care about every coin being like, if he liked the coin and it was a lower grade, he's taking that coin. But he did regrade odd coins to maintain his #1 position, but he didn't want to regrade everything. And I think when somebody was getting close on the registry, he would just almost pick 3 or 4 coins at random, submit those, and they would upgrade, and it would maintain his #1 position, which is probably unique in all of the set registry collectors. I mean, I even offered 2 months ago when we first received the coins, my recommendation to him was to regrade every coin. And because I thought there was so many upgrades among them, and he didn't want to do it. He said, no, let's just list them as is. I don't think he likes spending money on grading fees, #1. And #2, he knew that the quality was there and that they would sell for a premium as such in the holders that they're in, which is, a little unique way of thinking. And I'm confident he's right with that, just going by the interest that we've received in the last few weeks since they've been listed. But
I agree with that too. I mean, the coins are still the coins. If we're talking about pedestrian material, everyone needs to distinguish, coins from other coins based on grade. But when you have uniquely high quality material, whether it's art, comic books or coins, the coins speak for themselves. And it's the same coin if it's in an MS68 holder or a 67 holder, in my opinion. And as a purist, I really am happy to hear when somebody doesn't want to always max out the grades. And I think I think the industry has carried that a bit far. And I hope that we, see more of this, people just satisfied with wonderful coins. That, to me, that's a positive in the industry. I'm sure the next buyers may do that for themselves. Competition skews everything. Stuart was very competitive, as we talked about with the ONS quarter. He wasn't, I'm surprised he didn't get his coin regraded after he saw mine. And maybe he did, I don't even know, but he was competitive, but he was also a purist, and he falls into my category of numismatic collector Hall of Fame for all of his traits, for those reasons. He had a great eye and a real lover of coins. So bravo to him. And we're so sad that he passed away after you took the consignment. I asked you if that was a surprise. and it was to yours knowledge. And
Yeah,
that's,
we had a suspicion that he wasn't doing great, but he didn't want to talk about it, and I respected that. We talked many times over the last few months about the collection, and I think we received it about 2 months ago, and so once the coins arrived, we started talking about individual coins and the whole marketing plan and everything else. I wish he could see what they end up selling for in January and the interest. He already, I mean, we were calling and texting him updates with the first week or 10 days or so that they were listed before he passed away. And so he did get to hear about that. I mean, we've had a lot of interest.
We can be sure he's looking down and watching the auction very carefully, and that it all goes smooth with it. But I have no concerns about all of that. I'm sure that you know, and I also guess that he probably want the buyers of the coins to be also to equally appreciate them.
Yeah, I think that was important to him. I mean, he had considered selling it as a set at one point over the last couple of years. And there's advantages both ways. I mean, we've had some feedback from a couple of people that said, "Oh, I wish I could just buy it as a set" in the last few weeks. But I think Stuart wanted his coins to be spread around, and so multiple collectors can appreciate them. And I can see both sides of it. It is a shame in one side to split it up, but this way, there's going to be dozens of collectors that
I think it's great.
Appreciate the coins.
I think it's great to split it up. Makes more collectors. Makes it, you know, more democratic in terms of all that. Let's get more collectors passionate. And I think, you know, and hopefully there's other great collections out there. Like you say, you don't know what's buried in Europe or South America, and these will come to light when great collections are sold publicly. So, no.
Yeah, I mean, there's always surprises. There's always surprises out there. This is a little unusual. I mean, this is, I mean, he spent 50 years on this, and everyone knew what he was doing. But yeah, hopefully there'll be a collection like this, maybe in another series that come to light.
Sure. Well, you know, thank you for giving us all that background. I hope everybody appreciates hearing about that. And Patrick, I think you had a few questions you wanted to run through.
Yeah, just a little quick round of questions, just, you know, about some more broader topics.
Yeah.
What's your view of the current market, the current rare coin market, as we sit here in mid-December?
I think it's excellent. I mean, it's been growing since a few months into COVID. I would say 6 months into COVID, the market's been just been getting stronger and stronger. And we're still seeing a lot of new collectors coming into the market. We're also seeing, which is a key statistic that I look for in the market, we're also seeing a lot of collectors not selling coins as quickly as they used to. And so more and more coins are off the market, and for longer. I mean, I think I put in a press release with the second 13 nickel that we sold recently, that all three of them are owned by collectors that have no plans on selling in the future. I don't think we'll see those three coins, the three coins that are in private hands, up for sale in the next few decades. Like, it's, even though all three sold in a 12-month period, which is also unheard of in numismatics, to think that all three privately owned 13 nickels traded to three different buyers. We were involved in two of the three, and they're just not going to appear on the market. So I think things like that, I think it really shows how strong the market is, and it's helped prices increase in coins. Some of the more modern coins with the intrinsic value, I mean, gold's been lagging a little bit lately, and so that's affected that a little bit. But still, a lot of the premiums are up, and even though gold's come down on some of these modern coins, they're still trading at a very similar number as the premiums increase. So we're very positive about the market. We keep a very close eye on it, and but yeah, we're still positive about it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I was actually thinking that exact same thought when I was writing my column for the upcoming January gray sheet issue, is that will we see any, you know, big ticket coins come back on the market quickly during 2023? I mean, and you're right, that's a totally key metric about the health of the market. So that's very interesting. What's your take on the upcoming CAC grading service?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty big news in coins, that there's going to be another grading service start, and with the backing of John Albanese and a large number of collectors and dealers, including me. I've invested in it. And I think it's going to be very good. I don't think it's going to be easy for them. I think it's a lot of work what John and his team's taken on, John Albany's. But I do think collectors are going to like it, and I think they're going to do an excellent job. I can't wait to see the first coins in holders. I know we've seen photos of them, but I don't think that until I see them in hand, I think seeing a photo of them is not going to be the same as seeing one in hand. And I think they've got a lot of work cut out for them.
Yeah, we're all very excited, and as pricing editors, it's going to be extremely interesting to see the first 6 months of trading relative to the other two existing services. It's going to be a very interesting market dynamic, I think.
And with the stickering, how is a CAC graded coin versus a CAC stickered coin? I mean, nobody really knows yet. So that should be.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of variables, and I don't envy your job either with this, because look at the premiums now with CAC, and it took a little while, right? If you look back on when John started CAC, which I think was 2007 or 2008, the first few years of it, the premium for CAC stickered coin wasn't that great. I mean, it was a little bit, but it wasn't nowhere near as significant as now. And progressively over the last, I'd say 6 years from our internal stats, CAC premiums just have gone up and up and up. And so yeah, will it be the same instantly, or will there be a little bit of lag time? We'll see. Some collectors I mean, we're already getting submissions, even though we've told clients we're not ready we don't even know the rates yet for CAC, and they're not taking submissions for another few months, that we're already getting coins in saying just hold them until CAC grading opens up, which is I mean, that's great. That's good for CAC grading. And I don't think they're going to disrupt PCGS and NGC. It's not like long term, who knows, but obviously PCGS and NGC have the market, and they but CAC, I do like it. I think it's I think if anyone can do it, John Albany's can do it. He's already started effectively 3 grading services, right? He was a co-founder of PCGS. He founded NGC and founded CAC. So it's, I guess, another decade. So John needs another grading service.
Sure.
And then finally, Ian, what do you think the coin market's going to look like in 10 years?
Well, I mean, if it continues like it does now, which we're seeing collectibles in general expanding rapidly. Yeah, of course, you can cite sports cards. Some of those have come back. Some of the more modern ones have come back in price, but there's still a significant amount of demand and more collectors coming into the market. And it's not just sports cards. There's other collectibles. Look at art, look at comics, look at even video games. The whole collectibles market is expanding, and I think they're becoming more liquid. They're becoming more considered
an asset class.
Yeah, and I was just going to say regular asset class as opposed to alternative. And more people, and maybe I'm biased because obviously this is what I do 24/7, but I'm just seeing more and more people buying collectibles, and coins for a while have lagged the market compared to other collectibles, when really it doesn't make sense in my eyes that when you see a 1980s sports card bringing hundreds of thousands of dollars, which comparing that to the equivalent in coins, to me doesn't make sense. It's like coins have lagged the market. Now some of them are getting more interest and prices have gone up, but it's still lagging the market overall. And we're seeing other collectors from other collectibles coming into coins, and because they seem like great value compared to the collectibles that they're in. So I think it's going to be strong. I think there's a few unknowns, obviously intrinsic value, like the value of gold and silver and things, which even though it doesn't really affect a proof $20 lib, it still affects the mindset a little bit. So we're pro gold and we're pro silver at these current numbers, but no one really knows that, right? There can be, can't predict that. If I could predict that, I probably wouldn't be on this video with you.
Sure. Well, I think your biggest danger has historically been for coin values has been interest rates. And so because we as I understand it, we're a non-performing asset class. We don't, you don't earn interest on the coins you have in your collection. So therefore you're hoping that the asset itself will gain value greater than that interest return. But something has changed fundamentally, I believe, in that the collectors of today, the market today that you're very much involved in and that we just monitor almost as, is not, I don't know about immune is the right word, but just not concerned about that. They really are enjoying coins as a collectible, and maybe the fact that other modern collectibles like cards or comics that are they're very cool. People love them from their nostalgic purposes of when they grew up. But then they look at rare coins and they say, yeah, this feels somehow more solid. I mean, we how many crypto winters do we have to go through for people to say, I would much rather have an $1804 or 1913 nickel or 18, or something more modest even, but yeah, or anything, because you're not going to wake up and to a headline that's going to disrupt your value. And I think that's what's hopefully happening here in terms of, solidifying our base, but it definitely feels solid and feels better than the other, more modern asset classes, that exploded, like NFTs or something like that exploded during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, we have the best of both worlds, right? We have all these new people coming to the market, but there's also the existing collector base, which is strong to begin with. So it kind of protects us better if there is any downturn. But we're still seeing increases. The other thing to point out about the asset class, a lot of people like the idea of portable wealth in collectibles. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of having a coin, whether it be $1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 or $1 million in a single coin that's graded, it's authenticated, and being able to have it in their safe deposit box or in their pocket or whatever. A lot of people find that attractive, and put together that collectors enjoy owning these items. So it's not purely about the money. Obviously, people that buy coins, they like the idea that, oh, there's money there as well, but they also enjoy it. I know I do. And I've bought some Australian coins and some Australian banknotes. Some of them I think are excellent buys. Some of them I think were average buys, but I wanted to own them. It wasn't purely about the money. I just wanted those items, and I think that's common out there. I think, and particularly in today's world, it's changed since COVID. I don't. It's not just the extra money that's in the world that people are spending. It's the mindset has changed, and that's another reason why coins have gone up over the last
pride of ownership. Right. The pride of ownership.
Yeah, the pride of ownership. Yeah, exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head. And starting to realize that, hey, if you want to own a 13 nickel, as of 6 months ago, there was one available. There was one that was available for sale. The other two were in long-term collections. This was your only opportunity. And there's other coins like that. You can even look at a $5,000 coin or a $2,000 coin. It's not just the high-end multi-million-dollar coins that if you want to own the finest 1958 Washington quarter with amazing toning and everything else, this is your opportunity. You may not have that opportunity for another 10 years. So in looking at some of the coins, and we can talk about the 13 nickel again, the finest 13 nickel, which we acquired, Patrick, in that 3-coin transaction that you brought up earlier, that coin had traded several times in the last 5 years, several times. At one point, two people purchased the coin together. One bought the other one out at one point, and the other one bought the other one out at one point. It traded several times, and this isn't happening anymore. So I just don't see these transactions that from major coins or even less coins that you can rely upon the coins coming back on the market very soon.
Sure. Sure. I mean, and I think we've come full circle to a collector like Stuart Blay, who we said was the kind of one of the long-standing contemporary collectors of that mindset. And I think you have to give a nod to Deloy Hansen, who really, when you talked about 5 years ago or 6 years ago, I don't know what he kind of got hot again as a collector, but he came in and basically hoovered the entire market. He said, I have the wealth. I love coins. I have pride of ownership, whether it's a 1958 V Lincoln cent or a or an $1804 or something like that. And he wanted to cover the whole thing. And he brought, I feel, a kind of a new energy to the market. And then we add other variables like COVID and other factors.
But he was first. He was one of the first big buyers, probably you could say the first big buyer. He did very well buying when he did, because if he came in the market now, many of the coins are not available, or they would cost significantly more.
He inspired other people to come into the market, but he was only the first that's today. But of course, if you go back, you could have Eliasberg, or you can have, all these other, Stack, or any famous collector, Norweb or Pittman, these big names. But somebody has to kind of come out of the mold at a time when it's very unpopular. People aren't seeking coins, and Deloy came to the market at a time when dealers had high inventories and were happy to do big deals, and sold collections to Deloy with a big checkbook that you would drool over then, but now you just wouldn't believe it. Like, I know sets of proof 20s and things like that. So, look at
Deloy's $20 lib collection. I mean, if that came on the market today, I mean, it was big news when he acquired it, but he acquired it before the market gained all this strength. And
people thought he was reckless. I mean, let's face it, when collectors come on the market at the off time, people see them as reckless. And so you have to be bold in yourself and confident that you say, I don't care that people are going to talk behind my back and say he's overpaying for this coin or for the 13 nickel or the 33 cent, because now we look back at any of those transactions and we say, what a bargain. But they weren't buying for that reason, right? They were buying because they loved the coin first. They could always buy more buildings and more, funds and things like that. This was the pride of ownership first, loved coins. And I think that's just wonderful, because that's the self-fulfilling prophecy of why this is a good asset class.
And all of these people, Deloy and these other major collectors, they're all passionate about it. They don't care about if somebody's going to criticize, oh, you overpaid for this one coin, or like you mentioned the 3320, it sold for a big price, but I can tell you it's worth more today.
I agree.
I think that it's great. Deloy came in at the right time, and it's good for him. He's very lucky that he did what he did.
And that's great. I think we can go on and forever. But it's been wonderful. And I thank you for that. So thanks for joining us. Your insights to the market add value to, the kind of reporting and analysis that Patrick and I are doing day in and day out. So we really appreciate your time. We really enjoy watching your auctions and the growth of your company, and we wish you all the success. Thanks again. I hope you have a wonderful holiday and a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We'll see you at the Fun Show. We'll also be at the Fun Show in January in Orlando, if anybody's there.
Look forward to it. And thank you for having me today, and really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. So, and to our viewers, please, if you enjoyed this conversation, and please, like us on YouTube and follow, so we can have more conversations with Ian and other industry luminaries. And we look forward to seeing you in the future. Please leave your comments on the website, or at, on the YouTube website, or at greysheet.com. We'd love to hear from you. What we see at CDN is to help dealers, every dealer, large, small, medium, to the highway to grow their businesses. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.